Hello all 183 of my subscribers, how's it going? It's been a long 9 months since I did my last video, and in that time I've been waiting to make something. And now that the school year has ended for me, I can make it. But it's gonna be a long time, so I'm making this smaller video beforehand to give you a little preview. Before we dive in, I'd like to give an obvious spoiler warning, but I genuinely think you should all go watch and support Animatic Battle. It's a great show, and there's a reason I'm making a video about it. So please, go watch the show if you haven't already. I won't be touching on tons of other things, so you're gonna miss out on a lot if you don't watch it. But anyways, let's get started. Animatic Battle is a video series by YouTuber JammedJacket, known as an object show, which we'll talk about in a second. It serves as a half-indirect sequel to his previous series Object Fool, which is considered a joke object show. However, Animatic Battle itself looks like, and in my opinion, is a serious polished effort at being something good. But really quickly, let's talk about object shows. An object show is a phenomenon originating with Battle for Dream Island by the Huang twins starting in 2010. It was fairly innovative at its time, introducing some concepts that would define what an object show is. The object in object show comes from the characters being living objects, with limbs, faces, and personalities that of regular humans. Those contestants are then introduced to a host, who hosts a competition between the contestants. Contestants are then usually assigned a team, and the host sets up challenges for these teams to do. These challenges, and the world around them overall, causes a lot of death within the contestants. So, revival or recovery machines exist, and get used all the time to revive people. And sometimes, it's not even a machine. For example, the host inside of this show can also recover contestants. At the end of challenges, there will usually be a group of people up for elimination. It varies a lot between shows, but I've happened to notice it sometimes has themes of isolation. It continues until this very day, with the latest episode being uploaded 3 days ago, concluding the series' long-lasting second season. So, people like the formula, and now people are starting to make their own shows, and just do it a little different. And before you know it, you have tons of different object shows that are basically just copies of the same thing. And as the main leaders and originators kept on getting better and better, fan shows also got better. Now, there are shows with a spectrum of originality from the original, but all still considered object shows. And I feel this show is picked from the exact right spot on the spectrum. So, I hope I got it through. But the message is that these shows, and especially this one, are entirely unique and should be looked at with a less unassuming look. They can be really good, and I'll prove it. So, from the ground up, here we go.
Uh-oh.
Let us attempt once more. This time I will fulfill the bomb.
Okay, yeah, so that's a great start. All of this is, at least according to this video, nothing more than a little bit of silly trolling. Anyways, the first episode basically begins with a long chain of events, where the camera is basically just handed off to each member of the cast to introduce us. There's not too much to this part, but the recovery microwave is introduced, which is this show's revival machine. This basically makes it so death is trivial, and presents the presumability that they've always just lived being able to die and revive again. There's also some characters of interest we can see, and talk about later. Anyways, at the end of this chain of events, we finally get to the big moment we've been waiting for. Kane's cup picks up none other than the demon core, activates it, and then when it goes off... So, who is this guy? This is Animatic, and this isn't actually the first time we've seen him before. Technically, the first time we saw this guy was a little over 6 years ago in an intro concept for an early version of Animatic Battle. But that's all stuff we're gonna get to later. All you need to know right now is that Shifty is the only one that knows Animatic exists because they had a little interaction. He shows up just as the demon core is about to go super critical and saves the day. But then, he immediately kills 2 people and starts right on that object show grind. I want to stop for one little moment to take a look at this particular scene. This guy, although a little rudely, tells Animatic he won't be competing. But then look at the reaction Animatic gives.
8 teams. 8 members.
No, kill yourself. I don't want to do it.
Isn't that absolutely terrifying? This random person teleports in after the world was supposed to end, kills 2 people, and then does that when you refuse his competition? But anyways, they pick teams, do a challenge, teams lose, all of that. For what this series is, episode 1 is bland outside the few things that I mentioned. But now that we're done talking about it, there's some things I wanted to point out about Animatic that make him specifically special as the host that are introduced in this episode. We'll start off with what is, in my opinion, the most glaring trait about him. He's unstable. His actions and responses are completely unpredictable. 1 second, he'll be acting friendly, and then the other, he's trying to murder someone. The only thing we can consistently predict about what he does is that he follows the object show formula to a T. That's it. That's the one thing we can consistently expect from him. Everything else he does is seemingly random chance. It's also made clear to us that he does not care about the contestants, not even a little bit. He will kill them, ignore them, scare them, do whatever he wants, and he will not show a fleeting sense of emotion at doing it. This erratic behavior by itself is pretty bad, but when you add to the fact that we see Animatic has, at least on a basic level, the ability to manipulate the world around him and the ability to create things entirely, it starts to get a little scary. At this point, if the contestants looked at how powerful this guy is, and then at how sociopathic he is, they would have immediately known that they were cooked. But nobody really did that, so that's too bad. These contestants went from living free and having fun to being forced to compete in a competition hosted by an extremely unstable host who doesn't give a flying fuck about any of them or their lives. Remember when I said you should look at these things with a less unassuming look? Let's take a quick step back before we talk about episode 2, since there's probably some lore you don't know about. And even if you do know, I recommend you watch this part anyway, since it's one of my favorite parts about the show. So, remember how I said Object Fool was a joke show? Well, it, along with the intro concept I talked about earlier, do indeed seem to have some lore elements that somewhat explain how we got here. I will be going into further depth with this one, since JammedJacket didn't exactly make the lore easy to follow or access. And, without further ado, let's start all the way at the beginning and talk about that initial Animatic Battle concept. I say this is a concept, but I guess I don't really know the origins of this video, but considering nothing came before or after it was uploaded for a long time, I think it's the safest bet to assume that this was a one-off concept or a random video at the time. This is Animatic Battle intro, posted on JammedJacket's old channel, Green Plenty Guy. Unfortunately, it doesn't show much of anything important. It just shows a few contestants we've never seen before and, wait, that's not Animatic. This Animatic and this Animatic are not the same. I mean, they are the same person, but one is the careless, unstable host we've suddenly become familiar with, and the other just looks like a normal character. But that's quite literally all I have to say about this concept video. One giant time skip of 2 years later, and now we arrive at Object Fool. This is, as far as we can tell, the indirect prequel of Animatic Battle. You might see some familiar faces, but where's Animatic? Well, around episode 7 of the show, we see Doorframe gets put on a literal door as punishment for something he did. And after the viewers are shown who to vote for, we see one of the contestants decides to enter this door. And, well, I don't think I necessarily need to tell you what happened. Also, notice the environment around this door is suddenly much darker, being almost entirely black. Although I don't know what this means according to an in-world explanation, I think it's a nice environmental touch that tells us something just isn't good about this door after the frame was put around it. After Shifty is killed, we see the door open and see someone talking through text on the screen. Although we don't see anyone in specific leave this door, given the way the text is presented around it, in the next episode we see it like this, we can probably assume that it's none other than Animatic that was inside. This is actually why, seconds after Animatic first appears in Animatic Battle, he immediately says hello to Shifty, which is a really funny reference in my opinion. But Lana, we never actually see or hear him, so we can't say for sure he's there. You might be saying at this point, this is where I tell you that you're wrong, and at the very end of this and very next episode, oh my god, look everyone, there he is, take a picture. I think that most people, when they see this, will immediately jump to the backwards message that he says. But if we do a little frame by frame and some basic detective work, we can actually see for ourselves what happened instead of guessing. And it's at this point that we finally have all the pieces to understand the lore. So, let's finally talk about Animatic's story a little more accurately. Animatic was just once a regular person that lived in his world with his friends. He wanted oh so much to host his very own object show with them, and although they agreed, they ended up just leaving him. They abandoned him, leaving him completely alone. Not only did Animatic start to go insane as the time flew by, but he also started to corrupt, conceptually reversing his development into a literal animatic. He wasn't just left alone though. Someone locked him away before Object Fool started. Maybe it was his old friends who had grown concerned. Maybe it was someone in Object Fool itself, or even just maybe Eucerin put him inside that door because he felt that Animatic would be a problem. Eucerin locked him up and hosted a competition show for an entire year, while Animatic was just stuck in a void for yet another year alone. But who knows who really locked him up? Animatic's origin story is a fate tragedy. If no matter what he did, he was always going to be abandoned, he was always going to become what he is today. It's how a world composed of animation can punish someone wrongly and punish others irreversibly. But now he's free. He's not trapped now. He can do whatever he wants now. And with all the people already here competing in an object show, he needs it. He needs to finish what he started, to take over and finally host Animatic Battle like he wanted to do all those years ago. Now, it was finally his turn at being in control, and nothing would get in his way. Nothing. Sorry about that, just had to set the mood and really hit it home there. Returning to where we were, like I said, this scene alone gives us most of the lore that's important to us right now. It has several single frames that cover the rest of everything I just mentioned, as well as giving us a new look at the little interaction Animatic and Shifty had. Now if you think about it, it's not specifically that he was happy to kill Shifty, but that he could finally leave the void since he didn't see the door was there until Shifty entered. I'm assuming that the door needs a frame around it to function, and without the frame, there's no way between the two worlds, meaning he really was trapped until doorframe was placed onto the door. But like I said in my cinematic overview, he really wants to take over the show. After everything we get at the end of episode 8, episode 9 shows him threatening to take over Object Fool and turn it into Animatic Battle all throughout the episode. But guess what? Object Fool's over. Wait, is he changing the text box? We already knew that he could manipulate the screen at least a little with the text we saw in episode 7, but this is different. The entire time, it hasn't been directed at anyone in particular outside of maybe the contestants in Object Fool, but here, Animatic directly talks to us. That's exactly what Animatic just did to the fourth wall right there. In fact, it's in so many pieces that I'm not even going to try applying this to the lore. We're just going to roll with knowing Animatic has shattered the fourth wall. Well, that's the end of part 1 for this video. I didn't want this to be 2 parts initially, but the video has taken way longer than I thought to complete, so I'm splitting it here. Part 2 will come eventually, but for now, this is where it ends. I really hope you guys enjoyed and subscribe for more.